Hey everybody, Adam Phillips here for Dynamite Entertainment, and I am with Jim Zub today, the writer of the upcoming series Unbreakable Red Sonja. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Before we get into it, everybody at home, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That way you don't miss any content coming up on the Dynamite Entertainment YouTube page. And Jim, it's great to have you here. Thanks for joining.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Cool. So you are already well known for writing sword and sorcery stuff. You've written Conan the Barbarian and some Red Sonja, but this seems to
Yeah.
be, if I'm not mistaken, this is like your first foray into a more extended Red Sonja story.
Yeah. I've written a lot of different sword and sorcery books. I previously did Pathfinder, actually at
Right.
Dynamite. I
Yes.
did my own series, Skull Kickers. I've done official Dungeons and Dragons work, Conan the Barbarian, Samurai Jack. I'm pretty well known in the sword and sorcery space. And I previously co-wrote Conan Red Sonja with Gail Simone back in 2015.
Hmm.
I also did a one-shot special that got released from Dynamite called Red Sonja and Cub. That was just like, I think, a
Yes.
30 or 36 page one-shot special. So I've had some experience with Sonja, in the Hyborian Age, but this is a chance to really kind of open up and do a lot more, which I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, it looks really cool. And if you could tell us a little about what's going on in the story, our solicitation text
Sure.
was, a little vague, a little like,
Yeah,
let's
there's a
just,
mystery at the center of it. So
right.
I'm being pretty cagey and I'm keeping
Cagey,
my
yes.
cards kind of close to my chest. Essentially, in our story, Sonja's having these visions from her past. She's seeing little glimpses and pieces of events that have taken place before, but they're not clear to her. They're like very kind of
Right.
vague and mysterious as well. And she doesn't have a strong recollection of them, and yet they're there and they're very pertinent and seem to be coming back to her, sort of washing over her in this first chapter of the story. And as we go through, those events of the past are going to clarify, and as they do so, the kind of mystery that we're weaving here is going to kind of unlock, and you're going to see all kinds of cool things happening as we kind of analyze some of the past and the present and potentially, the future of who Sonja is, where she came from, and kind of
Mhm.
these bigger wheels that are happening with a new villain that we're putting together as well.
Oh,
So
cool.
I'm really excited. Getting to work with any of these kinds of legendary characters is always a bit of a gift, and being able to bring some new elements into the mix is also something that I'm really, really stoked for.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting, there's a big difference between like there's a body of written Conan work that has
Mhm.
sort of a established timeline and history. With Red Sonja, almost everything has been in the comics or virtually everything because
Right. Well, the original character of Red Sonja was really generated for the comics.
yeah.
That although the name she shares with Red Sonja of Rogatino, that's a very different character created by Robert E. Howard. The version that we know, this kind of high fantasy version in the Hyborian Age, that's
Mhm.
a creation of Roy Thomas, really, and Barry Windsor Smith. And so there is a lot more openness there. There is an origin that Frank Thorne came up with, and there's another one that Gail Simone had, and but even within the scope of that, I think there's lots of open areas to explore, and there's lots of flexibility there to kind
Oh
of dig
yeah,
into. Yeah, big time.
absolutely. And you're working with the artist Giovanni Valletta, if I'm saying that
Yes,
correctly. So how's that been going?
he's awesome. I mean, he's just got this real classic air to his artwork. Beautiful, elegant line work. His storytelling's great. His design sense is good. And the fact that we get to dig in with some new characters and some new places means he's going to get to sort of flex those design skills in addition to, just amazing storytelling chops. I
Mhm.
loved the work that he did, on James Bond. I think that he's a really awesome artist. And I hadn't really seen too much fantasy stuff from him. So when I saw some of the samples that were coming in, I was just kind of blown away. It was like, he's kind of known for the stuff he did on James Bond and John Wick, and it's like modern and obviously cars and cities and guns and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
He's got amazing drawing skills, but here it's just a whole other kind of challenge when you're dealing with this kind of fantasy world, sword and sorcery kind of stuff, and some of the unique kind of challenges that I'm going to be spinning his way for chapters of the story. We're dealing with different time periods, we're dealing with Sonja at different ages. We're dealing with all
Mhm.
kinds of really cool stuff. And clarity is so important to make sure that the reader is able to follow along as we're jumping through, past and present and all kinds of different events that we're going to be serving up. And he's super up to the task. He's rocking it out.
Very cool. Yeah. So it sounds to me like you've written some Red Sonja before. This is a big story that has this been percolating with you for a while? Has this been something you've really been itching to kind of get back to Red Sonja
Yeah,
story?
I've been talking to Matt Idelson, my editor at Dynamite, for a little while now, trying to find the right timing for it. And I really, really enjoyed writing Conan the Barbarian. I'm going to be writing more Conan the Barbarian in 2023 as well.
Oh,
But I
cool.
love the Hyborian Age. I just think it's an amazing, cool place. It's exactly in my wheelhouse in terms of fantasy. I always talk about kind of, your classic sort of Tolkien kind of high fantasy, lots and lots of magic and lots of kind of armies and destiny and this sort of thing. And what I've always loved about Robert E. Howard in the Hyborian Age is, for lack of a better term, it's low fantasy. It's like not low stakes, but it's like this dark, kind of gritty
Yeah.
undercurrent of fantasy.
Like
There's
very
a
street
survival
level.
aspect to it. It's also a lot of mystery. Both Sonja and Conan, they're not, wizards, and they don't have
Right.
all the answers. And it's more about survival on a very immediate level. It's about
Mm.
them dealing with the kind of challenges of the land and the creatures and the people themselves, rather than kind of these sort of destined timelines and things like that. Like, yes, Conan becomes a king by his own hand, and yes, Sonja becomes a queen, but it's more about a real visceral sort of task, in front of them, that
Yeah.
they build up a reputation, rather than it being like deigned to them from the gods and given to them, out of some form of destiny.
Right. Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It sounds really cool. It's going to be exciting. And
Yeah, we're just super pumped. And the reality is, 2023 is the 50th anniversary of Red
yes.
Sonja. And that is an incredible, anniversary to be kind of leading the charge into. We've got a killer creative team and a really fun story to be told. It's going to have, I think, a lot of the classic kind of ingredients that I love about sword and sorcery. But
Mm.
as always, I'm trying to give it a little bit of a twist. I don't want you to see what's coming, and I want there to be some really cool revelations and surprises to keep readers on their toes.
Very cool. So the first issue comes out on October 5th. And if you're watching this, please stop by your local comic shop. Tell the guy behind the counter that you definitely want to get in on the ground floor. We're going to show the covers now, including the variant covers. So there's a lot to choose from. We encourage you to buy any or all of them, of course. Anyway, but Jim, thanks for talking today. This looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Red Sonja is unbreakable, and we're going to prove it in this story. Make sure that you pre-order from your favorite local retailer and join
Yes.
us on this amazing adventure.
Very cool. Thanks again.